Hey Musties! I saw ScreenRant put out an article listing the 9 Godzilla movies where another monster was the hero. At first glance, this seems pretty accurate of a list, but there are some nitpicks I can pull apart in this. We're not going to review the whole article word for word. If you want to see that, you can click in the description box below and get the original article. 9 Godzilla movies where another monster was the hero. Godzilla may be the king of the monsters, but he doesn't always get to be the hero. Here's 9 Godzilla movies where another monster took that role. Let's see, number 9, King Kong vs. Godzilla. That's true. When it comes to being hero, Godzilla was definitely the antagonist. It was those early 5 movies where Godzilla truly was the antagonist. This was back when Toho had the rights to King Kong in the 60s. King Kong vs. Godzilla came whenever Godzilla was still a growing character in popularity. King Kong had more universal appeal at the time. ScreenRant goes on to argue that that's why they chose to make King Kong the more sympathetic hero. Number 8, Mothra vs. Godzilla. This was the 4th movie in the Godzilla franchise. It's hard to come off as a hero in a movie when you're co-starring with Mothra, because Mothra has never really been the antagonist, other than when Mothra's eggs or fairy are kidnapped. Mothra has had no reason to ever attack anybody. Mothra will always come off as the hero because Mothra is just so pure. Number 7, Godzilla vs. Megalon. I mean, technically Jet Jaguar was the star of the movie, but at the end of the day, Godzilla was a genuine hero in this movie. This is the most campy superhero form Godzilla has ever taken, was specifically in Godzilla vs. Megalon. This is highly disputable in my opinion, whether or not Jet Jaguar was the main hero. You could argue that Godzilla and Jet Jaguar are tied, and that would be completely reasonable. But just because Jet Jaguar is the main hero of the story doesn't mean he's more of a hero than Godzilla in this because of his actions. Jet Jaguar was literally just defending himself, as they quoted in the movie. He reprogrammed himself to defend himself and maybe serving his fellow human masters. But to say that he was fighting to, I suppose, save Japan at this point, like Godzilla was peaceful on his island until Jet Jaguar came flying in. Strangely enough, asked Godzilla through some kind of sign language to come fight with him, and Godzilla agreed. He said, "Sure, I will leave my island, go risk my life to help some strange robot." I mean, Godzilla was pretty much the white knight who just came flying in out of nowhere to save the day. There's superheroes who would be envious of Godzilla's pure heart in this movie. I'm actually going to give Godzilla vs. Megalon's true hero status to Godzilla on this one. Number 6, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Okay, so Mecha King Ghidorah is almost a reincarnation of King Ghidorah. He was practically dead in the future and brought back to life with technology. If anything, King Ghidorah is kind of a zombie in this state, half brain dead, just drowned in the ocean for centuries, and being controlled by time-traveling humans. Yes, Mecha King Ghidorah is the hero because of its actions being controlled by humans, and compared to Godzilla's actions, which is some of the most purely evil Godzilla stuff we've ever seen, yes, on a technicality, Mecha King Ghidorah is the hero of the story, although I would argue a reluctant hero. Number 5, Godzilla and Mothra battle for Earth. ScreenRant argues that Batra is the hero of the story. I have to disagree because it feels like they're using Batra as a cheap shot to avoid giving Mothra the title of hero again. As I've said before, Mothra is almost always the hero in any movie that she appears in, except for a few small exceptions where you could argue that in Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, Mothra's brief cameo in there isn't enough to make her the hero. I mean, she's the hero of the humans on the island, but doesn't actually defeat any kaiju. You could argue that Godzilla receives that title of hero in that movie. But then again, Godzilla's not necessarily the hero of Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster either, as Godzilla was just asleep, woke up, went on a rampage, and happened to cross paths with a giant sea lobster. But the sea lobster wasn't really a bad guy either. He was being antagonized by the terrorist organization that was on the island and being lured out of its depths. So maybe again, just by default, Mothra would be the hero in that case. Anyways, point is, back to Godzilla and Mothra, the battle for Earth, at number 5. I would still have to hand Mothra the title of the hero for this movie, because even though Batra changed her mind and became an ally to Mothra, and even sacrificed herself, Mothra was also attempting to sacrifice herself for the battle, and was doing so all along. So I would say Batra is definitely like a balancing karma factor, and capable of being a hero, but that spotlight was reserved for Mothra once again. Number 4, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, giant monsters all-out attack. Strangely enough, King Ghidorah in this case case was a genuine hero, and so was Mothra and Baragon, and I would argue that they all equally deserve that title for hero. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure exactly why this takes number 4 on the spot list, or what the exact reasoning of what makes something more of a hero than Godzilla is in what order, but the fact that we have 3 kaiju who are all heroes against Godzilla in one of his most evil forms, just by pure math, that should be number 1 on the list. I want you to let me know in the comments below. What do you think makes a kaiju a hero? And how do you rank which kaiju are more hero than other kaijus? Number 3 on the list, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. It's interesting here that ScreenRant lists Mechagodzilla as the hero, but failed to mention here that this version of Mechagodzilla was built out of the deceased body of the 1954's Godzilla, and thus actually creates an entire scene where this Mechagodzilla goes on a rampage and tries to destroy Japan to carry out the original Godzilla's last living will and testament. So yes, Mechagodzilla is the hero in this story, but almost a third of the film is built around the failure of Mechagodzilla to be a hero. There's no way that I think, in my opinion, that this should be number 3 on the list compared to Giant Monster's All-Out Attack. Number 2, Godzilla Tokyo SOS. This is definitely higher ranking than the previous Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, because this time, this version of Mechagodzilla stays in line, it stays on its task to stop Godzilla, and even teams up with Mothra. Because Mechagodzilla is piloted by humans, Mechagodzilla's goals are much more focused on stopping Godzilla. While Mothra is a hero in this movie, Mothra isn't as efficient as Mechagodzilla is. And number 1, Godzilla vs. Kong, the most recent Hollywood Godzilla film. Sure, he got his butt beat twice by Godzilla, and then still was willing to reach out and help Godzilla stop Mechagodzilla. That's pretty heroic, but Kong was kind of dragged into those fights by humans. I mean, I don't know if you could still top Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah Giant Monsters All Attack, because Godzilla killed Mothra and Baragon and pretty much destroyed King Ghidorah, maybe even killed, but then that wasn't enough to stop them either. Their spirits literally reincarnated and went back into King Ghidorah and leveled him up so he could take down Godzilla. These kaiju arguably spent 2 lifetimes fighting against Godzilla to stop him. Alright, Musties, as I asked you before, what makes a kaiju a hero, and what makes a kaiju more of a hero than others? How would you organize a list of the top 9 kaiju who are heroes? Alright, Musties, I enjoyed this list. I thought it was fun to look at. I definitely want to pick apart some more lists in the future. I'm not completely critical of this, I just have some technicality issues on this list. What did you think of the list itself? Let me know. Thanks for watching.